Space, the final frontier. Join us for a bold conversation. Our prime directive? To recap our favorite Star Trek shows, both new and old. To engage in debate about all things Trek. Prepare to energize with phasers set to stun.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Phasers Set to Stun, where we continue to show our love for everything Star Trek in this ongoing series from a Film by podcast, which focuses on every quadrant of the expanding universe of Trek by covering television, animation, movies, directors, and more. Plotting the course, as always, is your core Trek crew. I'm David Burns.
And I'm Scott Hoffman.
And I'm Wayne Whited.
In this episode, we are continuing our discussion on what we call the Starter Trek. This is going to be Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 4. Mm-hmm. So, gentlemen, I absolutely love the new opening theme. I am so glad that they finally decided to change it because it is much more heroic. But also, I love the fact that the space station is now busy.
Yeah, that was a big change, that title sequence. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have a space station floating in space that really doesn't have a lot going on. What, one ship? Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, we need to add a little bit more depth to the space station to show how busy it is. Mm-hmm. So you got little people working on the ship, on the station. You got different ships floating around. I think it's the new opening is much better.
Well, I understand what they were trying to do with the original. You know, they were trying to show the bleakness and how far out it was, and and that it's kind of alone in the universe. But we're past that now. I mean, it's definitely not alone. Everybody's visiting it.
Yes.
So it's cool to see that. It's cool to see like the evolution of title sequences. Like, not that there wasn't any kind of growth with Next Generation, but this seems to kind of lay the groundwork for things like Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks to have some fun with the title sequences and make them sometimes a little bit more meaningful.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a big difference now between this one and the original one. The original one was shot with models. This is all CGI, which is something that's now making its way into the series. Big time. The title sequence was done by Industrial Light and Magic. Yeah, they did a fantastic job at it. And plus, we got Michael Dorn added to the cast, and we got Dr. Bashir's actor has changed his name to Alexander Siddig. So that's two new things there as well.
Yep, that's a big spoiler. Way to go. No, I'm kidding.
Well,
we can't get around. We can't get around it.
We'll get there in like 10 seconds.
There's no way getting around that.
No, there's no way getting around that for this season. So yes, Worf does join the cast. Which I think if you know anything about Star Trek, you knew that was happening anyway.
Yeah.
So no surprise there.
They didn't even keep it a secret back then. We all knew about it, like months before this season started.
Yeah. And he fits so well. He really does. Yeah. It's almost like someone coming home and making you feel better about the show. And there's nothing wrong with the show, don't get me wrong. But just having Worf there just makes it feel more comfortable. Am I wrong in that?
It didn't change the dynamic of the series. That's one thing. I was a little against it back then in the day when it first happened, because I'm like, why is he coming and interrupting the cast, the station? But that didn't happen. He actually worked his way and became actually part of the whole chemistry very fast, and it was kind of nice seeing him there again.
Yeah, and seeing him in red again. Hey. We haven't seen that since season 1.
Looks good on him.
Of Next Generation. It does. It looks really good on him.
It's also feels like it'd be impossible to have such a a Klingon centric arc start without having some kind of involvement for Worf. Not that they couldn't do it, but yeah, I mean, my first reaction was, oh, okay, then we get another familiar face in addition to O'Brien, and that O'Brien might feel a little bit more kind of kinship, which is kind of interesting because he already had one established with the rest of his crew here. It's interesting how much that dynamic doesn't always work out well, as we see kind of play out in the season.
Yep, you're correct. Well, let's go ahead and get started with our top 10 episodes. I'm sure our listeners are anxiously awaiting for us to dive into this. Scott, I believe you are going to start us off, so go ahead.
Yeah, so speaking of Worf, If you haven't seen Star Trek Generations, I highly doubt it, go ahead and watch that now before you start this season. Because The Way of the Warrior, directed by James L. Conway and written by Robert Hewitt Wolfe, picks up fresh off the tension of the Dominion infiltration last season. Now that we can finally talk about it, it's the ending of the previous season finale was a changeling confiding in Odo that we are everywhere. Mm-hmm. So we pick up on DS9 practicing drills to flush out changelings on the station, with Odo as the kind of practice bait there. And the threat of the Alpha Quadrant is becoming more urgent than ever, and it seems to have reached the Klingon Empire. General Martok appears in the Klingon flagship at DS9, ready to stand at the station with the Federation to face the Dominion. But to prove his claim, a massive fleet decloaks outside the station. Soon DS9 is filled with Klingons who take the initiative to search relentlessly for changelings at the cost of station privacy and freedom. It soon becomes clear that DS9 could use some help, which arrives in the form of Lieutenant Commander Worf, fresh from the Enterprise's destruction seen in the movie Star Trek Generations.
Another big spoiler. I'm kidding.
I mean,
you can't get around that one either.
It's a good point to say, like, from here on in, it's very hard to avoid spoilers in this because there's such an interwoven arc through all these episodes. We'll try to dance around it as much as possible, but it's starting to get pretty tough.
Yeah, there's certain elements we'll still dance around, but you are correct. There are some things that I'm sorry. It's so ingrained into the season, you can't get around it, no matter how hard you do. Especially for the rest of the series, I think there's some stuff that's so ingrained that you just can't get around it.
That's right.
So just hold on, people. We'll get there. I promise. So what I love about this episode is Gowron, because that dude will just stare through your soul.
Oh yeah, those eyes.
Yes.
Right?
He does. He's frightening.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of other reviewers and whatnot say, like, the first time reactions, they'll be like, "Oh, that Klingon with the eyes that flares his eyes all the time." It's hypnotic. Yeah.
It is.
And Robert O'Reilly does a great job there.
He does. Absolutely.
He
and
does.
we get a bald Cisco.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he looks really good. I mean, I feel like he's gotten better shape because he just looks, I don't know, but he just looks completely different. I know he's bald now, but I mean, even in uniform and stuff, he looks completely different.
Mm-hmm.
He has a different demeanor for sure. He seems more confident. He seems bolder. I feel like, Wayne, when we were covering the documentary, there was some kind of mention of Avery Brooks always wanting to go back to this look that he originally had, but there was some hesitation around looking like Hawk from Spencer for Hire.
That's correct, yeah.
It almost kind of feels like Avery is kind of coming home into this, and he's like, okay, now that I've established the Cisco that I want to play, let me really lean into what I want Cisco to be. Mm-hmm. So this is the start of one of my favorite phases of him, because I feel like it's not just his look, but the way he carries himself.
Yeah. They were expecting a lot of opposition from Paramount against him going bald, but this time they didn't give any problem at all. They said, okay. And so he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks very commanding now. There's no doubt about that. The dude means business.
Yeah.
I want to call out Patricia Ullman in this, who she played Lita Alexander on Babylon 5. I love the fact that I keep coming back to Babylon 5. I swear, there's going to be Star Trek fans who are going to hate me over this, but I'm telling you, there's just a lot. There's a lot of comparisons between these two series.
There had to be. I mean, they were running concurrently. There was going to be a lot of comparison. There was back then in the 90s.
Yes, there was. I remember. I absolutely do remember. She also played Barbara in the 1990 version of Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah. Yep.
I feel like there's going to have to be a series that you two do, just like we do with Jeff, to kind of get him started on Star Trek. I think you two need to get me on board with Babylon 5 with some kind of curated list.
Oh, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I was so into DS9 at the time that when I saw like Sequest DSV, and I was like, are they trying to be DS9? And then I saw Babylon 5 just because of the titles, which I know is so shallow. But I was like, ugh, they're not quite this thing that I like. So I never give them a chance.
Yeah.
It's probably a mistake.
It is.
It is. You chose poorly.
You chose poorly, sir. How about Worf ordering the Warrior's drink?
Yeah. I love that he's still on the prune juice.
I do too.
That's fantastic. I feel like somewhere Guinan is just grinning every time he orders it.
Yeah. Even Quark is like, what? Fruit juice.
Yeah.
No, really good two-parter. A great way to open up the series, and the fact that they are really starting to dive into some more serious episodes and overarching story is beginning here with Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, and we don't want to forget there also is another very important Klingon that appears here, and is Martok.
Oh yeah,
J.G. Hertzler did a fantastic job. We'll see a lot more of him. We got a brand new Klingon cruiser here in this episode. We needed it badly. It is a great two-parter, great movie. But if you're going to go and watch it, try to find the 2-hour version and not the separate 1-hour two-parter, because in order to make it the 2 separate episodes, they had to cut a lot of it out, and there's a good 15 minutes of footage that's cut from it. So try to find that 2-hour version.
Yeah, and that's what we get on Paramount Plus. Is that right?
Yes, that is.
Okay.
Yes, but if you watch it on Tubi or any of those other ones, or like Pluto, they split it, and you're missing those scenes. They're important scenes too.
They are.
Yeah.
I like that Paramount kept it as one big movie. Is basically what it is. I like that.
And it kind of tricked me, because when I got to the next episode, I was like, wait, did I miss one? Because it didn't seem to track that long. But
it didn't. No, it flowed really well. You're right. You're even to the point where, like, where would they have ended this episode? And I know where it's at, but I'm just saying it's just because it was so smooth that you just didn't recognize that at all. So very good two-parter for sure. All right, well, let's move on to the second episode, which is The Visitor, written by Michael Taylor and directed by David Livingston. It is the future an adult Jake Sisko lives in the bayou by himself. He is visited by a young woman named Melanie, an aspiring writer who is looking for him and wondering why he stopped writing. Jake goes in to finally tell a story that he has wanted to tell. He proceeds to tell the story of when he was 18 years old, and his father went on the Defiant in the wormhole to witness a subspace inversion that only happens once in several decades. An accident occurs on the ship, causing Benjamin to disappear and seem to be dead. Months later, Jake has a vision of his father reappearing in his bedroom, followed by yet another time he appears, and this time seems to be back, but despite the effort of those on the station, lose him once again as he fades away. This wouldn't be the last time, and a never-ending search that would last a lifetime, continuing a very touching story between father and son. This was a really, really good episode. I'm telling you, we had a very good Jake Benjamin episode last season. This is another one for this season. Very good chemistry. Tony Todd playing as the adult version of Jake. Tony Todd is amazing in everything that guy does.
Yes, he is.
May he rest in peace. We lost him last year. Yeah. But just the actor, was it? What the heck is his name? Cirico Lofton, is that his name?
Cirroc Lofton.
Cirroc Lofton.
Yeah, Cirroc Lofton.
Yeah, him and Avery Brooks are just really good with one another. And you really believe they are father and son. I believe we talked about that the one episode. But in this one, man, they just do such a fantastic job again. And this episode just really breaks your heart of what happens at the end of this episode. What has to happen, I should say, at the end of this episode, just to make things right. Really breaks your heart.
Yeah. I mean, to use a Scottism that I probably say a lot, this one hit me like a hammer.
Yeah.
Before the ending has its own kind of hit in different ways, but the dynamics of this were so genuine and sincere and emotionally powerful. Like I love Tony Todd as Kern, Worf's brother. Love him even more as Jake Sisko. I thought it was interesting to learn that when filming this episode, Tony Todd had recently lost his aunt, who raised him as a child. 3 months before. And I saw a quote where he says, "The script got me out of my shell. It was like she was whispering to me, go back to work. And doing this was as close to heaven as I can imagine." When you hear that behind what's clearly a very emotionally powerful performance by him, it makes me like this season or this episode even more.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that Nog is still Nog.
Yeah.
He's 100% Nog.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. So I guess that just shows you the Ferengi, how they age differently than everybody else does, clearly. And I believe this episode was nominated for an Emmy for outstanding makeup. I don't think it won, but it did get nominated.
No, it lost, and it was going up against some big stuff. Well, no, I take that back. You were right. It was nominated. It did not win. It was also nominated for a Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation that year. And it was going up against Toy Story and Apollo 13, 12 Monkeys. But it lost that one, too, to Babylon 5.
Oh, looky there. We're going to bring that one back.
I get it. I should watch it. I get it.
This is probably the only time I actually disagree with them, because this is probably one of the most powerful episodes of the series. It's definitely one of the most... it was the episode that everyone talked about the most, really. I remember it being all over the news, all over the sci-fi magazines. It's deserving of attention. It's a great episode, great performances, great score by Dennis McCarthy, which I'm glad, like, within 6 months it was available to purchase. Everything about this episode is fantastic, and it's a do not miss this episode.
Yep.
Casting trivia. I didn't realize that the actress that plays Melanie, the aspiring writer, is Rachel Robinson, the daughter of Andrew Robinson, who plays Garrick.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Cool.
Great.
That's what I love about Star Trek, and how it just, keeps it in the family.
Yeah, for sure.
They do an incredible job with that. And the fact, too, that, even though you may play an alien in the Next Generation, you can play somebody else in Deep Space Nine or Voyager, and on and on and on. I love that they do that. I know. Why not? You're behind makeup. You're really not going to notice it. So, okay, go with it. And I like that. I appreciate that. Really, really do. All right. Well, let's move on to number 3. Scott, looks like this is you again.
Yep. So, Wayne, I'm going to ask you with one very specific part I want you to help me with. Okay. All right. So, Hippocratic Oath is written by Lisa Klink and Nicholas Correa. It's directed by Odo, played by... Can you help me?
Renee Auberjonois.
Thank you. I always trip over it. One of my favorite actors in the series, and I love to see him in the director's chair here.
Yep.
After a survey mission in the Gamma Quadrant, Bashir and O'Brien crash land on a planet where they're taken prisoner by a renegade group of Jem'Hadar. This small cell of soldiers are unlike the rest of the Jem'Hadar in that their leader has somehow broken free of his addiction to Ketracel White, the drug that makes them dependent on the Founders. Their leader sees a chance to help his brethren by forcing Bashir and O'Brien to help them replicate that cure, but time is running out as their addiction threatens to kill them. Although Bashir feels obligated to help them as a physician, O'Brien adamantly disagrees. These two friends risk losing their lives and their friendship over this daunting task. Meanwhile, back at the station on Deep Space Nine, Worf and Odo have a strong disagreement about how station security should be run. Hard to talk about this one without spoilers, but it seems like a very, very important episode when you look at the dynamic between Bashir and O'Brien.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's not always, World War II fighter sessions in the holosuite, right? Sometimes they can be at odds with each other, and an interesting way to look at how the presence of the Dominion and the Jem'Hadar can create some division between friends.
What I really like about this episode is the fact that Worf is uncomfortable. He seems like he's struggling to fit in and find his place. And that really did happen, because apparently, according to Ronald D. Moore, he said he used to be a cop more or less on the USS Enterprise D, but it's not going to be like that anymore. We wanted to keep emphasizing this is not the Next Generation. The station doesn't work like the Enterprise. Worf is going to have some troubles fitting in, but he's going to learn. And I like that. I like that in that character, because that gives a different dimension to Worf, because it just makes him uncomfortable. We know what it's like when Worf is uncomfortable.
Don't be around.
Yeah, don't be around.
Now, I'll be honest, this hasn't never been one of my favorite episodes of the series. It's not, I don't hate it, but it's just never really enthralled me. But I will acknowledge that it is very important to the series, not just for the development of the Jem'Hadar, but as you mentioned, the friendship between Bashir and O'Brien. Bashir's his ethics means that he's not going to let anybody die there. Not even his enemies, but O'Brien, with his history, his war history and his combat history, it makes it really hard for him to trust the Jem'Hadar. And it makes sense. You have to look at it both sides. It really is like you're seeing two sides of the same coin. I just found the episode a little slow, a little talky, but a very important important episode, and the performances are fantastic.
Yeah, it's very character building because two characters here who are friends are really starting to fall apart, and you're seeing that in this episode. So yeah, I think it's a very important episode. Yeah, I agree with you. It is a little talky, but it's still very, very important.
Also, kind of an interesting choice that they have to make. Like, I find it very hard to say one was right and one was wrong because it could have easily gone either way.
Yeah, sure could have.
And have you noticed, because it starts here, and I want everyone to pay attention to this, you know that Worf never addresses Quark by his name? Yeah. He always calls him the Ferengi bartender. I never noticed this before until I saw this pointed out to me, and then now I can't not stop seeing it or hearing it.
It's hysterical. I love it. Yep.
And you would think that there'd be a little bit more respect developing, because it's like, this guy's keeping you stocked in prune juice. He's probably charging you a premium for it, but
Too funny. All right. Well, Wayne, I think it's finally your turn for number 4.
And number 4 is Indiscretion. The story is by Tony Marbury and Jack Trevino, and it's written by Nicholas Correa, directed by LeVar Burton. Kira Nerys receives information about the possible location of a long-lost Cardassian prison ship on which her former Resistance lover was held. She reluctantly joins Gul Dukat on a mission to the desolate planet where the wreckage is located. During their search, Dukat reveals that he is secretly looking for his half-Bajoran daughter, Tora Zayal, who is also aboard the ship. When they find Zayal alive, Dukat faces the choice between killing her to protect his career and saving her and facing disgrace. Now, just like the previous episode that we just talked about, this is very important to the relationship between Kira and Dukat, just like that one was important to the relationship between O'Brien and Bashir, and the development of the Cardassians at this point. Dukat he's portrayed here not as being that one-sided scheming Cardassian officer that we've known for the first 2 years, especially from the show. But now he's a father. He's confronting the consequences of his past choices. Especially regarding his daughter Zayal, which this is her first appearance, and Kira, another great episode. We've had some great episodes in the past, but this is another one where she really shines. A lot of complexity to her character. She has to cooperate with the man that she despises, and to save this child. It's just the dilemma that they're placed in. Especially Dukat, between his career and the government and his daughter. It's very powerful. It makes this a very powerful episode. It allows both of them to move on from what we know before and expand the characterization, the depth, and this is exactly what the series needed right here at this middle point in the show.
And I believe this is the first appearance of the Breen.
Yes, it is. Yeah, which they've been mentioned a couple of times, but we got to see them.
Yeah, because even the Next Generation, I believe, had mentioned them, and we had never seen them before.
Yeah.
So this is the first time. This is a really good episode between those two characters. I can imagine having to be in Kira's shoes for something like that, because you can almost compare that to World War II and putting two people from Germany and from somewhere else, and they have to cooperate and work together, and you can imagine how well that would not go over well. So the fact that you're seeing that here, I can't imagine what Kira would have to go through. And she is, Nana Visitor is such an incredible actress. She shows so much depth in her performances, and she does it here too. She didn't want him to go, obviously, but she understood that Cisco really wanted her to do it, whether it was an order or not, but she still needed to do it. So very good episode.
It is interesting how they're the relationship with a lot of people, especially Kira and Dukat, how it's like taffy. Like, they get close together and then they're pulled apart and then they close together. Like, they should not like each other. You can see times when they get kind of common ground, and then Dukat usually reminds of but I'm actually a horrible person, so don't get too close. It's great dynamics between them.
It really is. It's funny for the Cardassians. I don't know if Dukat is my favorite or Garrick. I love both of them very, very much. And as I go through,
hard choice.
if I go through this when I'm going through this again, I'm watching it closely because I'm trying to figure out, man, which one of these is the better character. But I don't know if I can decide, to be honest with you, because they're both incredible.
Yeah, and they both have very great character development all the way through the series.
Yeah.
Wow, that would be a hard choice.
Yes, it would. Maybe we'll talk about that at the end of season 7. How about that?
Yeah,
most likely. Yeah.
That sounds like a fun time. All right. Well, let's go ahead and take a break, gentlemen, and when we come back, we will continue our discussion of Season 4, Deep Space Nine. Welcome back, listeners, as we continue our discussion of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 4 of our top 10 episodes that you should watch. Number 5. Now, this is a fun episode, I might add.
Very fun.
Little Green Men, written by Robert Hewitt Wolfe and Tony Marbury, directed by James Conway. In a parody of 1950s science fiction films, Quark wants to test out the new ship, Quark's Treasure. He is acquired, so he and Rom take Nog to Earth to begin his Starfleet training. On the way there, they learn the ship had been sabotaged, causing him not to be able to drop out of warp. A quick-thinking Rom does what he can to prevent sure destruction. Before they know it, the three of them find themselves on Earth in 1947, being held against their will by the military. Of course, Quark is up to what he does best, trying to get some financial gain, while someone special happens to come along to try and get them help to get back to their own time. I'm not going to ruin who that is. We're going to keep that a secret. So I won't get phasered on this episode. No, this was a really, really fun episode because what a great way to explore, Area 51 and those kind of things that was going on in our country back then. Great job, Star Trek. I know we get a lot of episodes where they go back into the past and they show up on Earth and stuff like that, but I tell you what, this was a really unique one and one that really stood out to me.
Yeah, it's one where I'd encourage people to look beyond the description of the episode, whatever platform you're on, because I personally kind of rolled my eyes at the description. I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. It feels like it's going to be fun, but too fun and whatever. Wow. This was such amazing performances by Quark and Rom and Nog, especially when the Universal Translator goes out. I love the use of that and the resolution of that. I think we're pitch perfect. And then how Quark kind of leans into the predicament was very entertaining. Like all of it, cover to cover, was just a lot of fun. So highly encourage watching this one.
I even said last season on how much Rom has grown on me. He grows even more on me this season, and this is one of the episodes that he really does. Max, is it Grodenchik? Is that how you pronounce his name? Yeah. He does an incredible job as Rom. And, there are so many scenes here that are just, you kind of bust out laughing at it. When he started going, I want my Moogie! I just lost it. It. It was so good. Yeah. But just his relationship between him and Nog, I love their relationship so much because, Quark is this jerk. Let's be honest, he's a jerk. And Robin's just trying to look out for his son, and, he stands up for Nog all the time, even though Quark puts Rom down. And it's just, I just love that relationship between the two of them. But there was a lot of fun in this episode. There really was.
There was. I've always considered this one of my top 10 of the entire series. I love this episode when it first aired. I love it again. I've watched it twice for this podcast. It's just such a fun episode. And we needed these fun episodes because we got a lot of darkness coming ahead.
Yeah.
So it's great to have this nice little break in the storyline. And like you said, the three Ferengi actors are just wonderful. I love the Ferengi. They don't annoy me at all. I love the episodes. I look forward to them all. I'm glad we chose this one. I knew we would. Everything about this episode's great. And I love the fact that we get to hear them speak their own language. That's something we never heard before. First time.
Yep.
So many great things. Don't want to spoil it because it's worth watching. You're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And them thinking Quark is their mother. Oh my God, that was so funny.
Yeah. Well, and I don't. Is it fair to say it's probably not spoiling anything if I say that we see that Nog has the lobes to stand up for himself and sometimes take the lead.
Yeah, that's not spoiling anything. No.
So great use of all three of them in this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's move on to our 6th episode, Wayne.
And that is Our Man Bashir, written by Robert Gillen and Ronald D. Moore, and directed by Winrich Colby. Dr. Julian Bashir indulges in his favorite holosuite fantasy, playing a suave 1960s secret agent. When a transporter accident occurs, the station's crew patterns are stored in the holosuite's memory, merging their identities with the program's characters. To keep them alive, Bashir must stay in character and complete the adventure, while Garrick joins him and questions his adherence to idealistic spy tropes. As Bashir faces off against a villain modeled after Dr. Noah, bearing Cisco's likeness, he is forced to use ingenuity rather than violence to outwit his enemies. Now, this is another fun episode. We had 2 of them practically back to back, and like I said, it's definitely needed. Very fun, very lighthearted episode. It's we get a lot of darkness coming up in this season. Not that that's bad, but there's a lot of really deep, dramatic stories. So this nice little break in there. But if you really look at it, it's a typical, straightforward holodeck episode we've seen many times before. Mm-hmm. And there's no secret of what they're parroting here. It's it's James Bond, obviously.
They got their hand slapped for that too.
Yeah, yes, they did. They got a very stern letter from MGM, which I thought was hilarious. I did not know that before until I was doing the research for this. I guess they weren't very flattered with what they had. But there's a lot of great visual gags, a lot of great, clever writing. Mm-hmm. And even a bit of character growth for Bashir and Garrick. The 2 of them and their relationship. It's definitely one of my favorite episodes of the series. Because the cast looks like they're having a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. The sets are incredible, stunts done nicely. They really spent a lot of money on this to do it right. So screw you, MGM. Let's have fun.
and not to give anything away, but the person who plays the villain did an amazing job as the villain in this episode.
Yes, he did. Yes,
chewing scenery. Yeah.
Yes. I loved him as the villain. I was like, holy crap, man, you're good at this. And he was having fun. You really could tell he was having a blast.
Yeah. I think this is another one where I kind of rolled my eyes when I saw the description. I was like, oh, no. Yeah. But it plays out really well. Like, it's fun when it has to be. It has the right amount of danger involved. It certainly does make me think that like present day, whatever that would be, they've got to have so much advancement in holodeck technology and security, because there are so many times when these wacky holodeck mishaps, it's like, all right, do they have like protocols in place so they can pull certain switches or whatever to make things not fall into chaos? But if they did that, there'd be no stories. So
there wouldn't be. You're right. And I think this came out around the time Pierce Brosnan's GoldenEye came out, didn't it? In 95? 95? Yeah.
95, yeah.
So
late 95.
It's interesting that they were doing that to coincide with that film. So, but MGM obviously wasn't.
That's probably why MGM took notice of
Yep.
And I mean, if you're MGM...
had their movie out.
Yeah, it's like, calm down. Like, your movie is out there.
Agree.
People can go back and see it again and again and again and again. They can only see this one again if they record it on their VCR.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, you're not hurting. If anything, it's promoting your movie and getting people in the spy mood to go watch it. But what do I know?
It's almost like, didn't The Next Generation get slapped on the hand for Sherlock Holmes?
They did, yeah.
Same scenario.
Right. And, I also want to point out, too, that this had a fantastic musical score by Jay Chataway, a very unique score for Deep Space Nine. It's also available if you can find the Deep Space Nine Volume 1 by La La Land, which out of print, really hard to find, but the complete score is on it. It's worth listening. Great score. And it was nominated for an Emmy Award.
That very jazzy, almost 007 Bond theme.
It's close.
That was very similar. It was the theme to Deep Space Nine that he twisted.
You're right. It was.
Which was really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. Very unique way to do it. All right, well, let's move on to another two-parter. Scott, this is you.
Yeah, we go from the light way back into the heavy, like with a big old swing. Homefront and Paradise Lost, I'll just lump them together into one description. Written respectively by Robert Hewitt Wolfe and Ronald D. Moore, and then directed respectively by David Livingston and Riva Bayadi. The wormhole begins opening and closing for no apparent reason as horrible news comes from Earth. A massive explosion kills 27 people in Antwerp, and a changeling has been spotted at the crime scene. Sisko and Odo travel to Earth where Admiral Layton makes Sisko acting head of Starfleet security on Earth. His first mission is to convince the Federation president to heighten security in ways that would severely curtail the freedom of its citizens. Sisko also has an uncomfortable reunion with his father, who not only refuses to care for his ailing heart, but also refuses to accept these new security measures. Earth also reunites Jake with Nog, who longs to join an elite group of cadets called Red Squad. In the second part of this two-part episode, martial law is instigated, which puts Sisko's father at odds with his son. However, as Sisko continues to investigate the escalating threat, he finds a more insidious plot just below the surface. I think there's a great family dynamic between Joseph Sisko and Jake and Benjamin.
There's that chemistry again.
Absolutely. Yep. I love Brock Peters. In this role and in general. Like, he's one of my favorite parts of, Undiscovered Country. And his performance as Joseph Sisko throughout the series, I think, is done exceptionally well.
Yeah.
I was also surprised to see Susan Gibney as Commander Erica Bentine, because as soon as I saw her, I was like, "Oh, that's Geordie's almost his crush squeeze or whatever." It was hard not to see that. I was like, I'm so distracted. Like, you're a twin, right? But
yeah. Listeners, if you don't want to hear this, here it comes again, another Babylon 5 item. So apparently, Robert Foxworth, who plays Admiral Layton in this. He played a similar role in Babylon 5 as General Haig in a 2-episode, and he went to Deep Space Nine, which kind of pissed off J. Michael Straczynski, the creator of Babylon 5. So he basically killed off and wrote off his character in Babylon 5. Goodbye.
Yeah, that was right about the same time, wasn't it? Now I think about it. Yeah, same year.
Sure was. But no, this two-parter was really well done. Going back to Earth, a huge threat on Earth. And the twist and stuff that we kind of get in this two-parter is really well done. But yes, the chemistry between the family of the Siskos was just phenomenal. And what really amazes me and just shows you the talent of some of these actors is the fact that you can just bring on Brock Peters, who obviously he's been in Star Trek before. He played Admiral Cartwright in the Undiscovered Country and The Voyage Home. So, I mean, he's no stranger to Star Trek. But the fact that you can bring in an actor that can just fit in and blend like he has been there the entire time with two characters who are part of the main cast, and you don't miss a beat, just shows you how good he is at acting and being able to have that chemistry with other people, because they didn't miss a beat with that.
Yeah, this is a really good two-parter. I think it's the last of the two-parters for the series. Everything becomes a parter after this, but it's a great two-parter. It's great to see Earth again. With Voyager out in the Delta Quadrant and Deep Space and all the way over here, we're not going to get to Earth as much as we did in the Next Generation. So, here we are. Good episode, good way of exploring Sisko's background and his family and everything. It's a fun episode. This was originally supposed to be the third season finale, fourth season opener. And the only fault I find with this two-parter is that it's kind of obvious that they're lacking some money to do what they want, because like I said, this was planned as a cliffhanger where they always save all the extra money for. They didn't have it for this being in the middle of the season. But besides that, great performances, especially from Avery Brooks and Brock Peters. I do want to point out one little bit of continuity that I liked. I didn't notice this the first time around, but the Federation president mentions let me quote him. With the exception of the Borg incident, there hasn't been a state of emergency declared on Earth in a century. Now, he's got to be referring to one of two things. Either V'ger's appearance at Earth in Star Trek The Motion Picture, which happened almost exactly 100 years before this episode, or the whale probe in Star Trek 4, which was about 86 years or so, because I was thinking about 15 years after that. So it's one of those two. Take your pick. But that's a nice little continuity extra that they added to it.
That was a good touch. I didn't catch that. So yeah.
Although I'm glad that you mentioned the Borg incident, because I think that makes kind of a unique case for watching DS9 or giving it a try, even if you don't want to dive into the entire series and you just want to kind of take our selects. I would say that this almost kind of proves that DS9 is helping to tell kind of the story behind the scenes of things like Best of Both Worlds with Wolf 359, right? How does that impact all manner of, a lot of different people, whether it's citizens, whether it's diplomats and governing bodies and things like that, to other species, right? This, I think, gives kind of a wider look at that kind of a threat and how it can have so much of an impact. That's just an interesting kind of case for, even though it takes a lot of investment, there's a lot to watch here, there's a lot to get through. But it's one of the most in-depth explorations I think this franchise has ever done.
Yeah, I agree.
And another fun scene between Nog and Benjamin. This one wasn't as serious as last season. This one's funny because he just got that getting agitated by Nog. And you could just see it, like, oh God, get away from me.
But it's interesting that now, as you mentioned, that there's a little bit of they're not quite peers, but you at least see that kind of mutual respect, and you can see that Nog is doing well. He's definitely taking it seriously. He's not, resting on anything, which I think would be good for Sisko to see.
It absolutely would, and I agree with you. All right, well, let's move on. Wayne, you have number 8.
And that is Hard Time, written by Daniel Keyes Morin, Len Barker, and Robert Hewitt Wolfe, and directed by Alexander Singer. Chief O'Brien is falsely convicted of espionage by an alien race and subjected to a simulated 20-year prison sentence implemented directly into his mind. When he returns to Deep Space Nine, only a few hours have passed in reality, but O'Brien is haunted by the traumatic memories of decades of confinement. Struggling to reintegrate with his family and crew, he becomes withdrawn, angry, and deeply guilt-ridden over the death of his imaginary cellmate. His emotional turmoil drives him to the brink of suicide as he feels unworthy of forgiveness and normal life. Now, this originally wasn't on my top 10 choices. I didn't even remember this episode that was even in the series. For some reason, I don't remember watching this one at all, but watching it again, and I did watch it twice before this podcast, it's really grown on me. This is an incredibly powerful, incredibly emotionally intense episode. Probably one of the most the series have produced up to this point. O'Brien's he's forced to have to deal with trauma, guilt, PTSD from this imprisonment, and I have to really applaud the producers for treating all of this in a very, very realistic way. Cole Meany's such a great actor. I love him in everything he's done. Not just Chief O'Brien. He's done so much stuff over his career. But he's really acting his chops off in this episode. I think his scenes with Keiko and Molly, and how he's unable to act around them properly because he's been in his mind he's been so away for so long. He just can't mentally adjust. It's some of the strongest scenes in the episode, in my opinion. And the ending, I'm not going to give anything away because, believe me, I want you all to watch this, but it's not what you would expect from a 1990s Star Trek episode.
Not at all.
There's a lot of spoilers, and I don't want to give away those, but unlike most of Star Trek, or in fact, really most of TV in this era, everything tends to get wrapped up in a nice, tidy bow. Not here. And I applaud them for doing it that way, because it really would have diluted the impact the episode had with the viewer if they had done that. Just an absolutely fantastic episode. But I want to bring up a little piece of trivia that I wonder if you two know. This episode was, when it was written, and I think it was written during the first season, originally wasn't going to have O'Brien. This was originally supposed to feature Ensign Cito, the Bajoran cadet from the Next Generation that was killed, where they find her still alive from what was it, Lower Decks, I believe it was, where they find her still alive, which I think that would have made a fantastic episode too.
Yeah, it would.
But if it would have taken place earlier in the series, but here at this point, we needed an O'Brien episode, and this just gave it to us big time. Slapped us right in the face with it.
Yeah. No, it was. There were some really good performances in this episode between Alexander Siddig and Cole Meany. Some very good scenes between those two. I do want to call out Craig Wasson, who plays Ekar. He was Neil in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. Yeah, he does.
Wow, that's where I recognize it from.
Yes, absolutely. But I mean, the whole scene when O'Brien just snaps. And obviously, what happens a little bit later on just is some very, very powerful Star Trek at its best, and something, you're right, Wayne, you don't typically see in Star Trek at all of what happens.
Yeah. This is done very respectfully when you mention things like PTSD and related kind of, threats of suicide and things like that. So just know this is a very deep and powerful episode. I would probably consider a scrub episode after this, something to just relieve the tension, because this one, even afterward, it stayed with me for a while.
Yeah.
It almost feels like kind of a negative opposite of the Inner Light from Next Generation.
Yes.
Yeah,
it is very similar in style. Yeah.
And what's interesting is that Margot Rose is an actress that plays a character named Rin in this episode. She was from the Inner Light when she played Picard's wife.
Yep.
Hats off to Cole Meany. Like you said, absolutely just powerful performance. To Rosalind Chow, also as Keiko O'Brien. They all do a great job in here. It's a very mind-bending episode, and it tells me that the counselors on these ships and these stations need a commendation and a vacation. Because they've got to have their work, clear my calendar with this one, right? Oy.
No kidding. There's a reason why this episode's called Hard Time, because I'm telling you, it's every bit of that meaning of that title.
Yeah, maybe kind of mix things up a little bit. Maybe watch this and then Little Green Men.
There you go.
That would be,
give yourself
like
an upper afterward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. All right. Well, let's move on to episode 9, For the Cause, written by Ronald D. Moore and Mark O'Connell, directed by James Conway. Equipment from the Cardassians is set to arrive at Deep Space Nine. Fearing the Maquis might be up to something, Benjamin increases security. He is surprised when Eddington and Odo approach him that they suspect Cassidy Yates is smuggling. Against his deep feelings for her, he is forced to put his crew on her trail and discover exactly what she is up to. All of this will lead to the discovery of a major secret that will send shockwaves across the station and beyond. Elsewhere, Garrick has his eyes on Zyle, who just so happens to be the daughter of Dukat and under the protection of Kira. So, this episode caught me by surprise of the things that happen in it towards the end.
It's hard to discuss it too.
It is. When a certain thing happens, you're like, why is he doing that? And then when it does happen later on, you're like, oh, okay, wow. It really catches you with your pants down, I guess you could say, because it really does. I'm not a big fan of a certain person in this episode or this season. She's not a main cast member, so you probably already know who I'm talking about. I was kind of glad certain things happened, but as far as I'm going to go with that. First time the Bajoran game Spring Ball is shown. Interesting there. Garrick being quite the player, I might add, with you-know-what. And one of the lines that I absolutely just sends a chill through you and makes you really sit and think is when a certain someone says that he compares the Federation to the Borg. That was oh, damn. Damn. When you really think about that, you're like, oh, I don't know how to side on this one now, because that kind of makes sense.
Right. And that's one of the most fascinating things about this series, right? Like, you think about the Federation in certain ways, like it's very utopian, can do no wrong, and all this other kind of stuff. And then just moments where it just calls it into question. Not that it's wrong, not that it's bad, not that it's necessarily even in doubt, but there's question. And there are a lot of questions that get raised throughout this series that I think open the door for things like Picard, when we eventually look at that. And it's kind of like, not everybody is in Jean-Luc's camp. And there are some fallacies to kind of explore there.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up too, because this really goes back to the core of Deep Space Nine's creation. It wasn't supposed to be as clean cut and clear as the Next Generation. There was supposed to be a lot of questioning, a lot of darkness and grittiness, and who is the good guy and who's the bad guy. And this episode really plays that up. You just don't know which side you should side with. I mean, really, it makes you question everything that everyone is doing.
I mean, and look at the character of Garrick. I mean, you think, oh, this is a good guy, I'm going to like him. And then he does it. He's like, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, you're right. I mean, it keeps you on your toes. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And I see that's why they wanted to do that. They didn't want it all nice and glossy like the Next Generation was. I like the fact that they went dark, and it's going to go darker. I mean, we've got 3 more seasons. It's going to get rough. And I appreciate that. So Star Trek needed that, in my opinion. It really did.
Yeah. And I was rather insistent, because this almost didn't make our top 10, but it's just, this episode's just too important, not just to Deep Space Nine, but much more. It has lasting repercussions for Star Trek Voyager as well. But it's really hard to discuss this episode without giving out spoilers, and we don't want Jeff's phaser to run out of power with this one. So.
Right.
I'd say along those lines, you have the benefit with streaming of watching something more than once. Once you see where certain things go, this does probably bear worth, it probably is, at least in parts, worth watching a second time.
Yep. Yeah. Agreed. All right. Well, let's move on to our final episode, Scott.
Yeah, super light one at the end of this series.
Yeah, sure.
Broken Link is written by George A. Brozak and Robert Hewitt Wolf, and directed by Les Landau. So, big spoiler warning for season 3's ending. I think we're past that, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Knowing that Odo had a hand in basically killing a changeling, which has never been done before. We see here in the beginning, there's kind of a lighthearted situation in Garrick's shop, where soon after Odo collapses with a sudden and horrible affliction. He begins to rapidly lose his ability to maintain his solid shape. As he continues to seemingly melt away, Bashir's scans reveal that he may lose all cohesion and die without serious intervention. That cure comes with a high price, as he realizes that the only answer can be found where he also faces harsh judgment for his recent crimes on the home world of the Changelings. Wow. A lot of powerful performance in this episode, particularly by Renee as Odo. He consistently impresses me. I've been a fan of that actor since Benson, to date myself.
Oh, yeah.
Something interesting that I noticed here, and he does it to great effect. It's never distracting, but I only really noticed it in this episode. How effectively Renee uses blinking to convey emotion and distress, and at sometimes when he's kind of struggling with knowing what to do, a lot of emotional depth you get from him. Probably not spoiling things by saying we see a certain shapeshifter again in this episode, who we've mentioned before as being very important, and also amazing performances. Dave, you and I had the benefit of talking with Brad recently about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and we were talking about Louise Fletcher as Nurse Ratched.
Yep.
I'm going to say it that way again. That kind of acting where they are so stoic and so seemingly wooden, but there's so much kind of impressive depth in that kind of delivery, that it just makes that person, I don't know, it's very, very hard to separate that person from the character they portray, but they do it to great effect.
Yeah, like last season, here we're given a very self-contained psychological season finale. It's not like the action-packed episodes we used to get with the Next Generation, but this is really, really important episode, very pivotal episode. kind of sets a stage to the next 3 seasons that's coming up. The war, but more importantly, it's a turning point for Odo. He's torn between his duty to the Federation, his loyalty to Deep Space Nine, his bond to the Founders. What does he do? And the fact that the Founders have deemed him a traitor, and they intend to punish him, that's a huge blow to Odo. We talked about last season, Odo wants nothing more than to return home to the Great Link. But here, he's forced even further away from his dreams. There's a lot of talk in this episode, but it's so well written and so beautifully performed that by the cast, it's really a worthwhile episode to include this list, in my opinion. I just watched this episode again for like the 4th time 2 hours ago, and it's incredibly powerful. Love the episode.
And it may not end with it to be continued, but it is a cliffhanger at the end.
Yes, it is.
Leading us into season 5. And you're right. The ramifications that are coming for the next 3 seasons is just going to be insane. For everything, for the Federation, for Deep Space Nine, for Bajoran, all of it is going to get crazy.
Yeah.
So buckle up, people. The next 3 seasons are going to be crazy. Yep. And it's going to be tough to pick some episodes, 10 episodes in some of these seasons, because so much is happening. We're really going to have to buckle down. But there's one moment in this that I found hysterical, even though this is a very powerful episode. So when Kira brings the criminal activity report to Odo just to brighten him up.
Oh, yeah. That was such a nice touch. You can see him rise up out of his belly.
He was getting excited. God. Oh, let me see.
Yeah.
I love that moment so much. But the other moment that is not funny that I just thought was extremely powerful was Odo's walk through the promenade.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
That was just rough. Yeah. But you could tell he wanted to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's all Renee.
Yep.
I know there's, writing and directing that leads it that way, but you can see how much he is so invested in this character.
Yep.
And I love Garrick's job on the Defiant. I thought that was absolutely, because you could see Odo is just completely enthralled with everything he's saying, learning all this stuff. And that's exactly what he wanted, to keep him busy, to keep him, his mind off of it. And I just love those scenes because, it's kind of hilarious the way Odo is just, fixed and listening to every word he's saying, not realizing that, he's just doing that to keep his mind off of what's really going on.
Yep. And earlier we mentioned, you really can't trust Garrick, and you saw what happens in this episode.
Yeah.
Right. And again,
that's powerful. That was powerful when he learns, the answer to his question. I'm not going to say what.
Yep.
His face.
Yep.
He tries to hide it in front of the Founder, but his face after when she turns away. Ooh, wow.
Yep.
Yeah. And the what he tries to do again just makes you think in different ways. Obviously there's pretty clear idea of right and wrong there, but you can see the motivations of both.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, listeners, well, that was our top 10. So now we are going to dig in and have a little bit more fun, as we always do with these. We're going to discuss our favorite scene moment with a certain character. This season is obviously Bashir. Wayne, I'm going to start with you.
All right, well, Bashir had a lot of good moments this season, but one particular I want to point out, and it's not an episode we chose for our top 10, but I'm still going to choose anyways, and it's from The Quickening. Dr. Bashir has to try to deal with the effects of a plague that the Jem'Hadar have unleashed on a planet because the planet has been resisting Dominion control. He's determined to help the suffering people, and he's certain he can find a cure, but he learns that not every disease is curable, and kind of his arrogance gets the better of him. And then when he witnesses the death of a young village woman who believed that he was going to cure them, it really changes him mentally and emotionally. He breaks. He's forced to confront his limitations and come to terms with the fact that sometimes as a doctor, you don't always succeed and people die, even though you really tried your best. One of my favorite bits of dialogue comes near the end of the episode when Bashir begins to realize that he can't save them. He says, "There is no cure. The Dominion made sure of that. But I was so arrogant, I thought I could find one in a week." And then Jadzia tells him, maybe it was arrogant to think that, but it's even more arrogant to think that there isn't a cure just because you couldn't find it. it's really a turning point for the character of Dr. Bashir. It's where he stops being that brash and unlikable woman chaser, the fresh young lieutenant that we saw back in the pilot, and he becomes more seasoned, more compassionate human doctor that continues throughout the rest of the season. It's just a great. We didn't choose it, but it's a great Bashir episode. If you want to watch 11 episodes, watch this one.
Scott, what about you?
I was kind of torn between Hippocratic Oath and Our Man Bashir, and I think I'm going to surprise that I'm leaning into Our Man Bashir.
Wow.
Because of what Wayne was just mentioning, how for a while he was just this, desperate guy that always seemed to be chasing after women and always in the wrong ways. So it's interesting to see him in that kind of misogynistic James Bond kind of holosuite program, right? And almost as soon as he's into it, he has to turn that off and play himself instead of the character that he's trying to immerse himself in the holosuite. He doesn't seem to take it too seriously, but I don't know, it's just an interesting turn when, like you said, we get this Bashir who isn't quite that character, who's kind of evolved, and we almost get kind of a look at, kind of a hyper-fictionalization of that kind of thing, where he's always chasing women, but here he kind of puts it to bed, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dave, what about you?
Well, for me, I'm going to go back to the Hard Time episode, where his explanation to O'Brien about them destroying a good man, and he can't let them do that to him. He gives such an incredible speech there for a dear friend that he cares about, and it just proves that he goes beyond being a doctor. He cares deeply about someone, and it shows you. I mean, we see it there. Even your guys' explanation of the moments you picked, it shows how much he cares about people, and he's grown, he's developed, and his story arc is getting better with that. He's not that brass guy anymore, like you mentioned, Wayne. He's not that women chaser anymore. He sees the people around him and what they mean to him and how much he cares about them. Even Garrick, for crying out loud. We know Garrick and he knows Garrick, but he still cares about him and wants to make sure everything's okay with him. But the fact that what he goes through here in Hard Times, and even before that, remember the episode, him and O'Brien got into a fight, about what he was doing. Right. So the fact that he still comes to O'Brien's side and cares about him and wants to make sure that he's mentally okay. And, what happens towards the end of the episode, it was really important that Bashir was there for his friend. And I just think that was very, very important and just a great part for Bashir.
Yep.
Yeah, it just proves from all three of our choices, there's a lot of character growth for Dr. Bashir.
Yep, absolutely. All right, here comes the fun one. Worst episode of the season. Scott, I'll let you go first. That sigh.
kind of tough to pick, but this is one that I think is half bad. And I'll say it's the Muse. I say half bad because the Jake and Onaya dynamic and the resolution of that, it didn't quite hit with me. Seemed kind of odd. The other half of it that has a dynamic between Loaxana Troy and Odo, I think was a lot more interesting and powerful, especially when I consider this is Major Barrett's last appearance, I believe, is Loaxana Troy. We also get another treat because we hear the voice of Mr. Freeze with Michael Ansara as JL. But I think it's probably one worth skipping if you have to choose. I think if you're a completionist that wants to follow Loaxana Troy and Odo's arc, I think there are some great moments between the two of them. But the majority of it with the Jake story just didn't hit with me. Wayne, what about you?
Well, I didn't have any difficulty at all choosing which one I didn't like, because there was one episode that made me very, very mad, and it was the Muse. And it's got nothing to do with the cast. They do a fantastic job. So the blame falls solely on the writing. Maybe the producers for letting that episode even be made. That main story with Jake and being seduced by what is it, Onera, it's just creepy and icky in my opinion. Jake's a teenager, and she's clearly predatory, feeding on the creative energies, from what he's writing. I've never been a fan of that type of story, sci-fi story, that emotional vampires feeding on another person's feelings of love or anger, or in this case, creativity. But because it's been done so many times in practically every sci-fi TV series that was made all the way back in the 60s. They did this back in the original series. It's the fourth season now, and we should have left all this type of storytelling back, during the first two seasons. And then you got that B storyline with Luoxiana Troy, what's she doing, seeking Oda's help because her husband wants to take their unborn child. I don't know. It's one thing when Luoxiana is chasing around men like Picard or Odo, that's funny, but the idea that she's remarried and pregnant just kind of makes her a bit trashy. That's the best way to put it. And to make matters worse, like you said, this is the last time we see the character of Luoxiana Troy. What a terrible way to end such a long-running and fun character. I'd rather just scrub this episode completely from my memory.
Scrub away. So I am going to not give the trifecta. I actually went with a different episode. I went with episode 5, Rejoined. Dax is reunited with one of her former hosts, mates, Leonara Khan, and the two struggle with their feelings for one another. Ugh. On Trill, it is obviously strictly forbidden to reassociate with a past lover. The punishment is exile, meaning the symbiote will die. I feel like I'm always picking on romance or love episodes or something like that, but I'm telling you, Star Trek can do it right, but my God, can they do it wrong.
Yes.
And this one was absolutely horrendous in my opinion, and I never want to see it again. Wayne, I will use the scrub word with you, and I will scrub this one from my mind because I don't ever want to revisit this one. I will not rejoin with Rejoined, okay? Because no thank you. We're moving on.
That was my second choice.
So what are you saying here?
Don't rejoin it. Don't.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think, listeners? Did we get it correct? Did your episodes make the cut? If not, let us know and why. We would love to hear your comments. You can check us out at www.afilmbypodcast.com for film and TV articles and our entire library streaming free. Write to us at filmbypodcast@gmail.com with your questions, comments, and concerns. We may just read your response on the show and send you some of Film By swag. Also, listeners, we are now on YouTube. All of our Phaser episodes can now be found on YouTube. So if you would like to go there, please subscribe. We would greatly appreciate that. We also have Scarefest interviews that we did when we visited the convention a few weeks ago. That was very entertaining. Matter of fact, we talked to Brooke Bundy, who is from The Next Generation. So very interesting. Wayne got to interview her as well.
Yeah,
so go check it out. Wayne, Scott, thank you so much as always. It's always nice to have you join me on these Phaser Set to Stun episodes.
Yep, likewise.
It's fun.
It sure is. All right, and if you're listening to the show and you want to follow us on all the social media platforms, we are there. And if you want to subscribe to our Patreon, we would greatly appreciate that. We will see you next time for another episode of Phasers Set to Stun.